Welcome to another video, Purple Political Talk here. Today is Tuesday, December 21st, 2021, and today we're going to be discussing a very interesting topic when it comes to 2024 and American politics. So recently, I've noticed, and many other news sources have actually picked this up, Hillary Clinton has started to go out and, shift what she's really looking at when it comes to her political, being in the country. As we know, during the period between 2016 and 2020, she was very under the spotlight. She wasn't in the spotlight. She, stayed behind. She wasn't out there. Now, I think this has significantly started to change. Over the last couple of weeks, I've seen Hillary Clinton come out and, kind of trying to position herself in the American political scene. And I think that for her personally, that is a smart move, considering the 2024 elections are coming up. And I think realistically, the Democratic Party right now is very divided. They do not have a lead figure. So if she was going to make another run or shot at the presidency, 2024 could be the time. But the purpose of this video is not only to talk about that, but we're going to take a look at how she would do against Donald Trump in a hypothetical 2024 matchup. Again, with the current state of the Democratic Party, I'm going to preface this in saying that I think it's unlikely that Hillary Clinton is going to be able to, take the country by storm. And we're going to take a look at that when we go on with the map. But before we do begin, I want to remind you guys to like, subscribe, and to turn on post notifications to be up to date with our latest content. With that out of the way, let's get started with the video. So for today's video, we're going to be using the YAMPS electoral map and take a look at what this matchup between Trump and Clinton will look like. And I think, honestly, there's also a lot of different factors. How is COVID doing? I'm going to kind of mention that throughout the video. So I think it's something that's very interesting. So on your screen right now, you're going to see the electoral map. I'm going to start by covering the safe states. I think generally speaking, we're going to be seeing the Democrats and Hillary Clinton do very well in the safe states that they would always traditionally win. The West Coast, most of the East Coast up north. I think that Hillary Clinton will do generally well against Donald Trump. And, I think that a lot of this comes down to, one, we're talking about a rematch election. We haven't seen that many rematch elections in modern history. Now, I think that this one is going to be something that's interesting because clearly Hillary Clinton isn't popular and Donald Trump is not liked in certain parts of the country. Now, I think that what's going to be more important here is where Donald Trump is able to garner more support. And, I think that the map has definitely changed since the 2016 election. And in many ways, it also has changed since 2020 because of Biden's, term in office, which I think at this point, the only reason why I really could fathom this happening is realistically that the Democratic Party has no front runner for the upcoming election. Biden, he's probably not going to run, and at this point, we don't know for sure. Kamala Harris, extremely unpopular. I doubt she can win the primary, even if she does run. Pete Buttigieg, the next best person they're trying to run. As you can see, a lot of the DNC is really trying to push Pete Buttigieg. Is it going to happen? Maybe. I think if Hillary Clinton finds her spot, which I think that looking at what she's doing, she's going out and making more media appearances. Maybe it's because she wants to, kick Trump while he's done. But I think there's a high probability that she does end up running. I think that the circumstances within the Democratic Party may be perfect for that. And, this is not to say that she's going to win again, because the circumstances are horrible for the Democrats right now. With insane inflation, everything's expensive. The economy has worsened. COVID-19 is not resolved. We're actually seeing, as I speak, a huge wave of cases when supposedly, because we were all vaccinated, it was all supposed to be gone, but that's not the case. And, I think a lot of this is going to have a lot of heavy political ramifications, not only for someone like Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden, but any Democrat that chooses to run both in 2022 and 2024. So on your screen right now, you're going to be seeing the safe states for what I think this matchup would be. Again, these are the traditional states, Democrats taking their liberal states by storm and the Republicans taking the very conservative states by storm. I think that we all expected this. Now, where I think this race is going to really be interesting is when we start getting to those swing states, especially the ones that are made up with a lot of suburban voters, a lot more moderate voters. Because again, Hillary Clinton she has some sort of popularity amongst moderate voters, but Donald Trump is a different, I think that the situation of the country for someone to like Donald Trump to be elected has to be a situation like in 2016, like it is right now, where people need something different. And honestly, if people are going to look at Hillary Clinton and say she's just another Joe Biden, in certain states it's going to help her because especially running against Trump. But in other states, it's really going to be a detrimental factor towards her. So let's get started with the prediction and let's talk about the likely states. So likely states, again, remember, are states that would go by a margin of less than 15%, but more than 5%. So as of right now, I really think that, Hillary Clinton is going to do well in some areas. I think, Colorado, Virginia, and I understand that in Virginia, we saw the Republicans did well. However, I think that when we look at 2024, remove from the current situation of the country a little bit, I think a lot of the things we're seeing now are definitely going to be factors in 2024, but they're not going to be the main factor. And in places like Virginia, I still do think, especially with Donald Trump on the ballot, that's going to be a different story for Democrats. They're going to be able to win there. Same thing in Colorado. And I think everywhere else is still up for play. I think that these are just two states that just by their characteristics that even though they could, but they have the possibility of voting in a Republican, it's not someone like Donald Trump. These places really do not like Donald Trump. Now, one of the things that we don't know, and I think it's something that as we move forward in time, it's going to become more prevalent, and we're going to be able to see what's going to end up happening with this, is how are people going to be taking January 6th and some of the other things Donald Trump did at the end of his presidency later on. Right now it's what people are thinking about because it's mainstream news, but I'm not sure that in a lot of states that's going to be a main factor. You guys tell me down in the comments or in the live chat what you guys think. But I think that's something that's going to be an interesting factor. With this said, I do think that Donald Trump is, of course, going to have some likely states. Of course, I think he's going to win in the Midwest. I think Donald Trump's one of his big areas, especially with someone like Hillary Clinton, who a lot of the voters in the Midwest could see, Hillary Clinton abandoned my group of voters. I do think that in the Midwest, he's going to do very well. Places like Iowa, Ohio. In Florida, I think the Republicans are unstoppable right now. Ron DeSantis is extremely popular. I do think there's, a very big possibility, of, the Republicans winning by a likely margin, especially against someone like Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is more liked than Biden in Florida. And that is, you can see that with her getting close to winning in 2016. However, I do think that the Republicans are gaining so much ground in Florida, it's going to be extremely difficult for them to knock down someone like Donald Trump in the state of Florida. And with that, I would say likely the state of Texas could also go by a likely margin. This would probably be on the lower side. I think what really is the factor here is that while there's a possibility of a lot of voters who have moved from out of state of shifting the election somehow, I don't think it's going to be enough to make it go under the likely margin for the Republicans. And ultimately, the state of Texas is a very conservative state. There's things that they will mess with, including guns and things like that. And when you've seen Democrats take a lot of those, big steps against guns and things like that in the state, I think that a lot of voters in Texas have starting to shy away a little bit from the Democrats, and I think it's going to be apparent when we look at the 2022 governor results with better work on the ticket. And generally speaking, I mean, Hillary Clinton does have a chance of making it closer. I think that certainly she's probably a better candidate than Biden and Kamala Harris. But again, that's where, I would see the total poll she ends in the Democratic Party. With all of this said, I do think Texas goes to Clinton. Now, taking a look at what else we have left, I think everything else is going to be a little bit more tight. We're going to start with the lean states for the Democrats. I think the Democrats are going to do moderately well in places like Minnesota, in places like New Hampshire. Again, these are not going to be, home run wins. I don't think they're going to be by 2016 margins or 2020 margins in these places for the Democrats. However, I do think just because of the situation of the country. However, I do think that they're still going to be comfortably, you're going to do comfortably in these states. Minnesota has trended a little bit more to the left, although parts of the states are trending red, and especially with a lot of the different political changes, the economic change we've seen over the last year, that's probably going to end up dragging itself at some proportion, maybe not at its full extent, but at some proportion. And of course, that's going to have political ramifications. Same thing in New Hampshire. I mean, the real big thing here is going to be two questions. And I think with this right now, I'm going to keep those two questions kind of neutral, that they're going to be in the middle. One, how big in trouble and hot water are the Democrats? What have they gotten done? And two, how big of a polarizing figure is Donald Trump going to be, to the point where he's going to completely have some voters that are saying, we're not voting for you, not even if my life depended on it. So that is something I think that's going to be important to answer. And, places like Minnesota and New Hampshire is those states that are probably going to end up voting for the Democrats regardless of the answer to those two questions, which I think those questions are important, because that's going to kind of we're going to see what big extent. Let's suppose that the Republicans have a good wave, in this election. They could take these states, of course. Now, I think it's unlikely with the current situation of Donald Trump and the Republican Party. So that covers what I think that the Democrats would take by a lean margin, with the exception of New Mexico. I do still think that Hillary Clinton has the possibility of taking the state of New Mexico and going with it. I think that that's a possibility for her right now. As for the Republicans, I do think that places like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Maine's 2nd district, these are places they're going to be able to do very well in. I think maybe in the lower lean margin, probably around 2%, 1.5% in these Midwest states. I think that with what a lot of Donald Trump has been, offering politically with his policies and things like that, it is likely that these voters in these states end up turning out for him, especially considering that Hillary Clinton, in many ways, abandoned them back in 2016. And in a lot of these states, Obama-era politics, are not the same thing. And I think that when some voters look at, at politics in the United States with the contrasting figure, when you look at, America a year ago and America today, some of them are going to say economically, maybe I was better off a year ago. And, making some of these things, and honestly, that's going to be a helping factor for Donald Trump. For Donald Trump, I think the biggest saving grace in this election is going to be, number one, the situation of the country. Again, I honestly think this, and I've said this in many videos in the past for those of you that have been following me for a long time, that Donald Trump losing in 2020 was the biggest saving grace for him and the Republican Party. Now that people are going to have a comparison point, but now a lot of the things that are products of COVID, because it's easy to say politically the economy is horrible because of Biden, but that's not the whole reality. There is a part of that reality which, yes, it is just a bad decision making by the Biden administration, but part of it is also COVID. So he's been able to effectively set up his party in a way they can give all the COVID and bad economic blame that was going to come regardless to Biden, and then run with it, which again is going to be a big saving grace. That's going to help him in the Midwest. It's going to help in the South and many other areas to decrease those margins. And down ballot races, look at the midterms next year. Take a look at the congressional races that would eventually happen in this election. It's going to be very positive for the Republicans. So as you can see, those states would go for the Republicans. I think that with the situation of the country, I think North Carolina would also go as well for a lot of the same reasons. And the Republican Party right now, and I think in 2024 are going to be a good spot. And Hillary Clinton, I think a lot of her big dilemmas of one of the big reasons why she did not get elected back in 2016. Sorry about that. Was she's resolved those in some ways. And in certain groups of voters, especially suburban, a lot of suburban women that, they turn out for her anyways, but I think they could turn out for her in slightly larger numbers, depending on the situation of the country. If the country was 2019, early 2020 before the pandemic, Hillary Clinton probably would have been out of the picture. But with the current, place in the Democratic Party, I think she really has that possibility to squeeze through. Now, the last states, Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia, I do think that Nevada would end up voting for Hillary Clinton. Hispanic vote, although the Hispanic vote has really been trending, I really want to make a video about that because this is something that a lot of people do not understand. It's very confusing in many ways that, Hispanics were a group that people thought they're going to go traditionally Democratic. They're going to vote Democrat for years. And it's been a big shift with the big issues right now, with the economy, with things like that. A lot of these issues are affecting not only white people, they're affecting Black Americans, Hispanic Americans. they're affecting Asian Americans. So there are these issues that, they're not minority based. And once you have those issues on the table, it's going to be it's going to be clear that a lot of these changes need to happen in policy. And for the Democratic Party, it's going to be, difficult to uphold some of those voters. But generally speaking, I think that Hillary Clinton does have a chance of winning those voters. Now, in Arizona and Georgia, these are two states that I'm really questioning, because I think on one hand, they really dislike Trump. On another hand, the states are in a position where the economy is not doing great at a nationwide level. Generally speaking, the Democrats are not as popular. So with that said, I think that in Georgia, I think there's a possibility of, the Republicans winning by a slight margin. And I would say go as far as saying that same thing in Arizona. I think honestly in 2024, I do expect some voters to turn back. And with the margins being like they were in this election in these states, it is likely that, it shifts. So with all this being said, I think the 2024 election is going to be very interesting. The primaries are going to be very interesting. And if Hillary Clinton does end up being the Democratic nominee, considering she has the opportunity, because if you look at it, if you were Hillary Clinton, it is a perfect move. And I mean, politically, I don't think she would do well in a general election, as you can see by this prediction. I still do think that Donald Trump would beat her in 2024. Within her own party, it's a great opportunity because, again, Biden is probably not going to run for many reasons. Kamala Harris is clearly unpopular. Her staff is leaving her like flies. It's really bad within the Democratic Party looking for a candidate. The DNC is pushing Pete Buttigieg, and Hillary Clinton, she's trying to postulate herself because maybe 2024 would be the opportunity for her running. And I never would have thought that I've been saying this, that Hillary Clinton has the possibility of running. However, I think that as time has progressed and, I'm seeing Hillary Clinton step by step, she might be preparing something. Maybe it's not running for president. Maybe it's something else. But only time will tell. So, guys, I want to thank all of you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give a huge thumbs up, like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to be up to date with our latest content. And I hope you guys have been enjoying our latest content. I haven't been posting as often. I've been, slightly more busy since, I posted, over the 2020 election and during the summer of this year. But I've tried my best, and as the year is coming to an end, I'm probably gonna do a live stream for you guys, and I'm really thankful for all the growth we've had this year. We've grown about 800 subscribers, which I think is a good amount. And moving forward, there's endless opportunities. Next year, the midterm elections, we're going to be doing great things here at Purple Political Talk. So stay tuned for that. So that's another great reason for subscribing. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and goodbye.